real quick. What you do is you take this little part of the formula for the x-coordinate and you set it apart separately. So this is the same thing. This is saying x1 plus x2 divided by 2 equals x sub and then capital M. And then you just plug in what you know. So you plug in the x-coordinate for the endpoint, and you don't know what the x-coordinate is for the other endpoint, but you do know what the x-coordinate is for the midpoint. So that's where this formula comes from, or this equation comes from. And then you solve it by multiplying both sides by 2, and then subtracting by 1, and you get then, and I would call this x2, they should have done that. This is the x-coordinate of point 2. This is the other endpoint there. And then do the same thing for the y. I know I'm going quick, but I'll review this in class, and again, Khan Academy would help you wonderfully in that. Let's jump to distance formula now. Distance formula. When you see distance formula, think of Pythagorean formula. So highlight distance and then write Pythagorean. Make sure you spell it correctly and highlight Pythagorean formula. And why do I say that? Well, because when you want the distance between 2 points, what you do is you make it into a right triangle. And you know that the length of the sides of a right triangle are related to each other according to Pythagorean formula, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So make sure you write that in on top of your equation for the midpoint. No, it's not midpoint, that's distance there. Okay, in fact, let's go ahead and highlight. Let's highlight this whole formula for midpoint, make that jump off the page, and let's highlight this dude to make that jump off the page. There we go. And so here's your right triangle. A squared, the length is this one, is, well, let's call that A. The length of this guy, let's call that B. And then here, the hypotenuse, remember it's across from the right angle, that's always your hypotenuse, is labeled C. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. But how do we know what the length of A is? Well, we take the difference in the x-coordinates and then take the absolute value of it. Or when we're just plugging it into this formula, we don't have to take the absolute value of it because we are squaring it. And you know that whether, like 2 squared is 4, negative 2 squared is also 4. So that's why they don't have to have the absolute value signs here. So that's where we get this formula from. And if we have c squared, in order to get c, we just take the square root of both sides. And the square root of c squared is c. Okay? And they're saying c here is AB, which you know is the length of AB. So I am flying. But you guys can replay the video and go to Khan Academy. It goes nice and slow in Khan Academy. So here's example 4 in your book. Here's your points. Again, I would label this as point, this one down here is point 1, and x1, y1, and so forth, and then plug it into your formula. So we're going so fast, I just skipped over that essentially. But let me help you out with this one. Problem number 6 on your notes. What is the approximate length of segment AB with endpoints? Here's the coordinates for point A, so let's label that as point 1, and then label it x1 and y1. Got it? And over here, label this as point 2, and label this as x2 and y2. Now I'm going to leave it up to you to write out the distance formula. Please do write out the distance formula. You have plenty of room to do your work down here. And you'll see the distance formula. Sometimes it'll be AB, which you know is the distance between A and B, or the lowercase letter d, which is distance. And so you'll write out distance equals, and then write out, just copy that formula down here to get it in your brain, what it is. And remember, this is minus. We want the difference between these x coordinates here. And then all you have to do is plug in your numbers. Plug in x1, plug in x2, and so forth. Again, be careful with these negatives. Be really careful. Put parentheses around the negatives when you put them into your formula and solve your problem. I'm not sure what the answer is. If it stays as a radical, try to reduce it, but there's no need for you to make it into a decimal. Just leave it as a a simplified radical. And that's it, we're done. Is that okay? Trying to be a little bit more motivated, a little more quicker. And again, use Khan Academy, and we'll see you soon in class. Bye-bye.